What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the 10th annual South Florida Book Festival presented by AARLCC. I am your host, Billy Allen, librarian, storyteller, and creator of Three King Visions. I am honored to be moderating this special guest. This young brother is very inspiring. He is a photographer. He's an amazing author. He has a very, very dope book titled Open Water. This is a must read, I must say. You must have it. You know what I'm saying? Check out your local library or just purchase the book. You must do that. We have the one and only Caleb Azumah Nelson. What's going on, man?
What's going on, bro? Thank you for having me.
Hey, I am honored, man. I am honored, man. So first and foremost, just thank you. Just thank you for taking your time out to be featured for AARLCC, man. We do a lot of great things for the community, and what you're doing is just amazing. So this is gonna be a different type of interview, man. You know, we're not gonna just ask the regular questions that you've been asked in your previous interviews. I do want to backtrack and start from the beginning. What inspired you to become a writer? Because I've done my research on you, and I know you're a photographer, and I get it. And I'm like, okay, is this why he inspired his storytelling? Can you dive into that?
Yeah, for sure. I think it's funny because I've always thought of myself as a writer first. Growing up, I always had a book in my hand. I was always dragging my parents to the libraries. Libraries were such a big part of my childhood. I'd be like, right. I'd go to one library, I'd check out the maximum amount of books, and then a few days later, I'd be like, we need to go to the other library to go get some more books.
That's what I'm talking about.
I think that I was always really intrigued in the idea of storytelling. I think growing up in a large family, my mum is one of 10, my dad is one of 9. There was this real there's this real culture of oral storytelling. You'd gather with your family,
right?
And people like to tell stories. They'll start a story and it's woven 20 different directions.
You already know.
Before it comes to almost halfway point, and then we start something different. So I've always just been intrigued in the way that people tell stories and express themselves through various mediums, through writing, through music, through photography, through art. And I guess I've just but first and foremost, it's always been books. It's always been literature, because there's a frequency that I'm just oh man, I just love the way that people can express themselves using language.
That's dope, because me as a storyteller, I'm just listening to you talk. Like you say, you can hear the same premise of a story and it can be flipped multiple ways. I tell people all the time, when you're reading a book, you can read a book or can you read a book? And it's just like you telling a story. Me and you can experience the same thing, but we're going to tell a different story. And that's so dope when you're a storyteller, because that creates the endless content because it's through your lens. And it's kind of funny that I'm even segueing into your book a little bit, because I thought it was real unique, because I'm a storyteller and I noticed the perspective that you used in the book, and you don't hear it that often. So what inspired you to use that second person type of perspective when you was writing?
It was so, for me, it was so intimate, that way of telling a story. It allowed both myself and readers to get as close to the narrative as possible. I'm in the space where you're literally next to what's going on. When you're reading this and you're reading this almost aloud in your mind, in your mind's voice. You're saying you did this, or you do this, or when you're asking a question multiple times through the book, the question is asked, how are you feeling? And if you're reading that as a reader, it's actually, how am I feeling?
Right.
And so it just kind of emphasizes this intimacy and really brings you as close as you can do. You become you're both audience and the protagonist as well as this is taking place.
You know what's dope about that? Because when I was reading the beginning of the book, I'm a hip hop head, I'm a music lover, and it made me think of certain videos. It made me think of the Bro James Permission video when he was like, come and give me that green light. I was thinking about all that. I was thinking about the Love Jones, that movie.
So many people have said that.
I'm telling you, like, I was like, this is the type of love stories and stories that we need to hear. And think about, if you think about Love Jones, like that was like over almost 20 years ago. Like that brought that type of nostalgia. And then like me just being a single Black man, just being in the mix, I was connecting with that, and I thought that was real dope because you don't hear that type of content anymore. Was that something you was like, okay, I may be on to something? Am I hitting on point with that?
I mean, first and foremost, like it was a story for me to tell, right? Like it was like, this is like something that's like I'm trying to express, and as long as I'm like being honest with myself, then like I'm doing the job. But then you begin to realize that as the work goes out into the world, it means lots of different things for different people. But I think that like element of like love as like a place for freedom really resonated with a lot of people. I think it's it's not something that you see or read or engage with on a regular. And so so for me it's like it feels like I've done the job I needed to do, if that's what people are kind of like receiving and resonating with.
I'm telling you, like it took me back to the 90s. I'm like, okay, you know what I'm saying? Like even like back then when you look at like a lot of the music videos, when you talk about the directors were painting that story, the imagery and just you having that dialogue with your brother, like, yo, man, I saw Shorty last night and so I felt that vibe and I had to get it. And I was like, okay, that's me and my homie. He's like, man, I ain't see her, man. You tripping, But that's the reality, though,
Right.
This is what we go through.
Yeah, that's like the back and forth, right? Like you with your boys, and then you're like, oh, like I saw her the other day, or like, were you at the party when I was there? Like, did you see that? Like, and it's not just in like an aspect of love. It's like actually just generally, like I think that so much of what I was intrigued with was like the kind of like the everydayness, the sort of like smaller moments, the mundane, these moments which I feel like just make up our lives as a whole. And I think especially for Black people don't go as documented. Like I feel like if you were to delve into a Black British archive or an African American archive, then so many of the moments are like the big grand moments, and it's not just like I was chilling with my boys that Friday night, or I was doing this, or I was doing this. Like it's those small moments which I think are like, they're so intriguing to me, and they make up like the everyday parts of our lives.
I mean, like it was funny because it's like a lot of times when you hear about love stories and stuff like that, people hear about like almost like the end game. He already done got it. He done already bagged her. You know what I'm saying? Versus I saw her across the room, Chris Brown voice. You know what I'm saying? Like that's the stuff that intrigues me. And I thought about something right before we went live. Think about what you just done, even with that intro of the book. Like with COVID going on, people weren't going out during that time. So you're connecting with them like, man, I can't wait to get back in the mix. Like, so that was really dope, man. So how much of your life, we're talking about experiences, how much of your life experiences attributed to the creation of this book, but like not only that, just your writing?
I think so much of my work is like, it's so like personal. Like I feel like I'm someone who, like, I'll start from emotion and feeling. Like I'm less concerned with like plotting specific things out, but I'm like more like, like what are these feelings that I may have known at some point, and then I'll create like fictional events from there. So much of my work, like whether it's the novel or the short story, it feels like like I'm constructing these stories and these moments that at the core of them are always asking this question, like, do you know this feeling? Like, have you felt this before? And if not, then can you understand what I might have? Yeah.
That's pretty dope. I think you cannot be a great storyteller without experiencing things, but the ability to have the person see what you're seeing. And I feel like that's what I always try to tap into when I'm telling a story. And I saw what you was doing, like from both perspectives, from the protagonist to from the woman, you know what I'm saying, the dancer and you. I mean, you tapped into so many elements and painted a picture. That is a hard task to do as a storyteller. So I definitely have to commend you on that, my brother. Like, I mean, that was really, really, really dope. How long you been a photographer, man? Because I see it in your writing.
For real, I've been taking photos since how old am I now? Almost 10 years. Yeah, I picked up a film, like an old 35mm film camera when I was 18. My uncle passed away and he left it to me. And there was some film in it already. They were like film that he hadn't used this camera since the 90s.
What?
And there were like 15 shots left, and I was like, yeah, I had no idea how to use it, but let me just figure this out. Let me use it. And I remember developing the role, and like the first 10 shots are like his kids and his family, like in the like mid 90s, and then the rest of them were my shots that I'd just been practicing and trying to work this stuff out. And it was, the contrast to me was so beautiful, and it really tapped into that idea of archiving. And like I'm always so intrigued like by like the albums that like I'm sure like your family has them as well, but like the albums that our families have that just hold so much, like they're so rich in story and in culture and life. And for me, like having something physical, being able to see like an image like that is really beautiful. And so that's what I've been, so much of my work is portraiture. It's portraiture of Black people, and I'm just trying to get them in their like everyday moments where where they can feel like they can be most themselves, where they can be most honest.
That's dope, man, because you don't hear that very often, you know what I'm saying? Kind of like taking these type of career paths. And I think it's dope because like me, I'm a Black male librarian, you know what I'm saying? You don't, you know, we're pretty rare in this field. And it goes to my next question, man. Your book was very strong. It talks about masculinity in the Black man. You know, being in tune with yourself. It's okay to express yourself, be expressive. How important is representation of the Black man right now, from your perspective and as a whole?
I think for me, like I was intrigued in presenting like my specific experience, because I know that I can't speak for everybody.
Right.
And seeing what would happen if I allowed myself the freedom to express myself, and what might happen if then you felt that freedom as a result, and you then encourage someone else to like feel that. And it was like, for me, it was like, okay, if I do this in here, if I do this in like this bit, then like, who can I then encourage to be like, okay, like this will roll? Who will pick up this book and be like,
right,
oh man, like I've never felt like I could say these things, or like I know these things, but I've never felt like I could express them, or haven't had the language to express these things. I haven't had the kind of tools to express these things. And so for me, it was less about like representation and more about like encouraging another reader who might look like me or you to go towards themselves, to find some expression, some way of expressing themselves.
It's a game within the game. When you talk about representation and inspiring, these young, if whoever watches this, like if you're watching this live right now, you're going to see like an inspiration. They have to see us to be inspired to become a writer, to become a storyteller, to become a librarian, to become a photographer, breaking those stereotypes of Black men. Yeah, I say it all the time. There's more to Black men than becoming an athlete or rapper. You know what I'm saying? Much as I love hip hop, I'm a huge hip hop head, diehard hip hop head, man. But there's other avenues to contribute to hip hop. Storytelling is one of the major aspects of hip hop. Photography, you capturing moments in life. That's it, man. I'm telling you, it's a vibe. Life is a vibe, man. You know,
I think it's like for me, I'm always trying to capture atmosphere. Like I'm always just like, what it's not necessarily what happened, but what was going on around that. Like,
Right.
recently I've been thinking about like I'm working on something new and I've been thinking about being being in like a crowded room, being at like a house party and like
I knew you know that. Yeah.
having like a DJ like kind of like playing and like those moments where like a house party like it approaches like frenzy, like you begin like you're in like this weird,
You're in that
strange like
zone.
things are just like going and the music is it's heightening and everyone everyone walks away from that and has had this communal experience. It's almost like you're at church in a sense. Like
Right. Oh,
there's
it's
a
always
level
like
of, there's like a level of like it's like there's a level of like almost sublimity which is achieved in that space, right? Like man, like I was thinking, being in like the eye of like a mosh pit, like when like I don't know if you ever been to a concert when everyone's like, yo, clear the space, clear the space,
it's
clear
just
the space.
like that.
Right, and then the beat drops and then like there's something in those moments where I'm just like there's so much, like it's like electric, like it crackles. And so for me, even in like quieter moments where you're like, you might just like spend like an evening just like sitting and drinking with one of your boys, or like
Yep.
spend more like tender moment with a partner or someone that you're seeing. Like again, like there's this real atmosphere to those moments, and that's what I'm always trying to capture.
Man, that scene you just described, man, look, I can relate to it, man. Like even when you was talking about when you first saw the young lady, and you like, look, man, I'm about to bag her. You know what I'm saying? You felt the connection. And then you turned around and it was the guy right there. And then you put two and two together. I'm like, look, I done been there plenty of times. I'm like, it's almost like that Jagged Edge song, you know what I'm saying? He can't love you like I can love you. Like, that is so real. And sometimes authenticity matters more. And I think what you did, like you talk about being in a mosh pit, that it was almost like everything was faded out and you was zoomed in on that young woman. You was consumed by her. And for you to, I think the selection of the perspective that you chose to write achieved that at optimum levels. Because I'm telling you, I told my homeboy about you, and I'm gonna give him your book. And I was like, look, man, we all gonna relate to this. You know what I'm saying? We just experienced this, and that's dope. So when we talk about painting an image, what is your creative process, man? Like, I mean, do you let it come naturally? Because for me as a storyteller, even when I'm reading children's books, and sometimes I read a lot of children's books to hip hop beats, instrumentals. I'll have an idea in my head, but I don't force it. It has to be natural. I'm just living. I might be out with the boys too, so we might have a beer or two, or I might just be in the gym, or I'm just rocking out, watching the game. How was your creative process?
I think I'm someone, I always have a notebook to hand. I always have something that I can jot down things, because I know that I try and spend a certain amount of time at my desk per day, but I also know that so much of the work that I do is not done at the desk. It's when
Right.
It's when I'm on train journeys. It's when I'm just chilling and something comes to me. And I think there has to be a level of like being ready, I guess, being open to receiving those things, and like allowing yourself, your brain, just time to process things and to just stay. And like I don't know, I'm quite a disciplined writer.
Man, I need more discipline, man.
Like I'm someone who, like, when I have a project on, I'm like, okay, we'll get into the desk, we're doing this at this time. But at the same time, I'm just so open to improvisation and to things arriving that I didn't expect. So much of writing, like so much of open water, I just didn't have a plan. Like I would start each day with a blank page, just be like, okay, like we're doing something today. In a sense, a lot of this felt like I was almost like I was freestyling in a way. Like I was like, oh, we're gonna get here and we're just gonna,
that's an art form,
be in the space, and also like trust yourself to be in this space, to be able to say, okay, like I'm here. I brought myself to this moment, and there is something that needs to be expressed. What's the best vehicle for this expression and in this specific context?
So did the COVID situation force you to become more disciplined, or how much did that affect your creative process?
It's funny because I feel like I've always had that
Dope.
level of discipline, but the book was actually done before COVID hit.
Okay.
So like I finished my drafts in like March of 2020. So literally like as the
Right in
UK,
time.
I was handing this in. And so it's weird that there's so much of the book is almost like reaching towards this
Yeah.
more normal sense of like freedom that
Normalcy.
and it's taken on like a different dimension since COVID has hit. But like I don't know, creatively, I think of most creatives have struggled in
Yeah.
this. And for me, like I think that something that's come from this period is like affording myself grace, allowing myself to say like today is not the day,
Yes.
and to just be a bit easier on myself, but also to reach in different pockets and go down different avenues to draw out those stories and that creativity to in a way to just be a bit more open. I think that's what it's really encouraged me to do.
Speaking of encouragement, like describe to me your mentality when you're creating your content. Was there a little nervousness, or you was always confident as far as how the public would receive your book? Like, what was like your thought process initially towards the end, or you was like, look, man, I got what they want?
Are you frozen? I missed that.
Can you hear me now? Yeah, you good. We good. Yeah, we back. We back in the game.
We back. It's funny. I didn't really think of the public. I didn't really think of anyone like, receiving this. Like, it's really humbling, and I'm really grateful that, like, even in this instance, that I could be talking to someone on the other side of the world about something that I wrote mostly in my bedroom and in the library. Like, that's actual sort of thing. I think so often I'm thinking like, what, like, does it satisfy me? Like, what level of, like, how happy am I with this on a personal level? Like, what is this something that I would pick up and read? Am I like, have I gotten this right by in terms of like my own craft? And everything else is just a bonus, man. Like everything is a real bonus.
That's dope. So what's the reception been like, man? Obviously, we reached out to you. Tell me, how does it feel once you get it done and it's published? I know as a librarian, I get approached by a lot of authors. One of the biggest questions is, how do they get their books in the library? Like that's like the number one question. What kind of challenges you had as a young Black writer? You know what I'm saying? You just don't see, especially the lane that you took, is like, were there any extreme challenges or what?
I think no one really prepares you for putting a book out into the world and for like putting a part of yourself out there. I think there's this real, to write this, I really have to make myself vulnerable and encourage myself towards a sense of vulnerability. But that then becomes your norm. Like, you're talking to like new people every day, and like you want to be open and honest with them. And you're being vulnerable in all of these contexts, but it can just leave you like a little bit white. You're just like, man, I've just been like telling my truth like all day, every day. Right. In terms of reception, it's been really beautiful, man. Like so many people have covered it, both in the UK and the States. Like, it's been translated into other languages. My local library put up like a big display in the window.
Oh, that's fire!
That was really dope, man. Like my childhood library. So that was really special. And it's like, the book came out in the UK in February, and I'm still kind of doing press and events for it. And so it feels like it's having a longer life than I could have ever expected. And like I said,
social media.
Yeah, yeah. It's like,
Yeah,
it's really
man,
hard.
it's millions of people that haven't seen your work, and that's a beautiful thing. Like you say, I'm over here in Miami, in South Florida, you know, and you're across the world. Like that's a beautiful thing for us to connect like this.
For sure, for sure. I'm kind of jealous you're in Miami right now.
It's lovely.
I need some of that.
It's lovely, man. I'm a huge hip hop head, man. And throughout your book, you made a lot of hip hop references from the Tribe Called Quest, Midnight Murderers, classic hip hop album, by the way. Kendrick Lamar. I'm gonna flip it. I've heard a lot of people interview you, you know, saying acts, and they probably, you know, they're not engaged in the culture like that. What is your favorite Kendrick Lamar song or bar? Woo! I had to get you.
Yeah, bro. I was listening to the other day. I'm gonna look up the lyrics so that I don't mess it up, right?
Right.
But it's off section 80, off a track Hold Up. You know that track?
Look, man, come on, man.
Wow. Let me not even try and make a fool out of you here.
No.
Let's see if I can find this.
Yeah, Kendrick Lamar,
just
man, the lyricism at its finest. I'm such a big hip hop head that as far as like storytelling and lyricism, and it all correlates to your work. Like I'm a big battle rap fan. Like I like, you know what I'm saying? I love lyricism and painting that picture that, you know, you like, wow, he really made me see it from his point of view. You know,
like, what?
Like shout out to Loaded Lux and all them.
All right, so it's like it's the second verse. He says, wicked as 80 reference in the pool of fire with devils holding hands. From a distance, I don't know which one's a Christian, damn. What?
Like, for him to think like that?
But it's crazy because I think there's so many of the occasions that I've seen Kendrick like 5 times. I've seen him.
What? I ain't seen him live yet, man.
He's there's an energy about him, and he's had that since day one. Like the first time I saw him was I think it was 2011, like before Good Kid, Mad City dropped.
Really?
Like, tiny show, yeah. And that was really special. But he's always had this sort of energy about him, and you've just seen him grow into that. And there's something despite the expressiveness and despite the kind of like the hip hop bravado, there's something very quiet about the way that he moves through the world that really fits with the way that I like to create. And you can see that he's someone who really takes his craft very seriously.
Correct.
And really trusts himself to make the work that he needs to.
I think when you take your craft seriously, other people will. And people will see the sincerity into your work. Even when like you talk about like the Tribe Called Quest, just that era he come from, obviously it's had a huge impact on your writing process. Who are your favorite hip hop artists outside of him that influences your writing style, perhaps?
L Sweatshirt is a massive.
He's big over there where you at, right? Yeah,
for sure. Initially, actually, in the first quote in the book, the epigraph is Zadie Smith, but we had a Zadie Smith quote and an L Sweatshirt quote, but we couldn't get clearance in time. But yeah, like big influence on my work. His dad was the South African poet laureate. I didn't know until I was writing this book. And there's a very clear lineage of poetry in his wordplay. Like it's very special, and I think especially as he's grown older and his work has developed, there's this sense of brevity to his work where he's like trying to get the point across to you in the shortest amount of time, and he always hits it on the head.
I'm a huge Nas fan. Like I'm a huge Nas fan. Like I literally know Illmatic front to back. now that I've gotten old, I think It Was Written. I may think that's a little better than Illmatic. People think I'm crazy, but I think sonically, when you're talking about like the storytelling, it was on point. I'm a big fan of Nas as far as storytelling. I think Royce the 5'9" is really good. Lupe Fiasco.
Yeah.
Common. I think sometimes it's not about what you say, it's how you say it. Like, Common is not the most lyrical, but he knows how to say it in a way versus like if you see Black Thought say something, it get crazy, man. It would get crazy. So we're going to transition. So, all right. So what song represents your life?
Someone actually asked me this the other day, and I really, really struggled.
I got hit with this question last night, and I really couldn't answer. I said, Ice Cube, today was a good day. I was like, ooh. It's a tough one, man. It's a tough one.
One song. Nah. No. It would be like an Isaiah Rashad song. It'd be one of those. It'd be something like the Sun's Tirade. I just think there's like in terms of what we were talking about, like the atmosphere and the vibe that we try to capture. Like I think he does that so well. I don't like you listen to his lyrics and you have to listen to them again and be like, what was he actually saying? Which I think is such like is so special. And I think I'm always thinking, just generally, it's like it's a blessing and a curse, but I'm always thinking like what's underneath, what's going on, like what's underneath what I can see in front of me, like why has something could happen, I'd be like, why has that happened? And it sets off like a whole sort of like check.
Right. So I know we mentioned in the beginning of this, you said you've heard from multiple people about the Love Jones reference. When you was crafting that whole scenario, did that come across your mind, or it was just like organically it connected like that?
Not even close, man. Like it's crazy because I made like a big mood board with lots of like visual references on it before I started. And it just didn't even cross my mind that to kind of go across that again. And it was only when the book came out, one of my boys was like, "Man, your book reminds me of this film that I saw years and years ago." And I knew immediately what he was
talking about. That's fire though. That's fire.
I think that like I think I've seen that film like twice. There's something that like I've only seen like a handful of times could have such a big influence on my work in that way.
Because throughout the whole book, your book has a poetic vibe. It's like a spoken word. Like I tell you, I'm heavily influenced by battle rap. Me as a storyteller, being able to engage people and have them see your perspective is everything. And do you have any favorite inspirations from poets, or it's just like, look, this is just how I am?
No, I was really reading the poets when I was writing this book. Like a lot of African American poets, like Langston Hughes and Gwendolyn Brooks, and more contemporary poets. Terrence Hayes was a massive influence on this. Morgan Parker, Hanif Abdurraqib. These were all people who like I was just like chomping through their work at the time of writing this, and the influence is very clear.
Would you ever tap into that realm as a writer? These are not.
No. I'm gonna stay with these numbers, man. Like there's something that poets do that I am in complete admiration of. But I need my 150 pages. Whereas
that was the dope thing about your book too. I noticed it was short, but it was compact. Like I mean, when sometimes when you read a good piece of work, by the time you get to the 40th or 5th page, you're like, okay, man, it got to pick up again. It got to pick up. Your book was so consistent and visual. I'm pretty sure you got things in the works. Do you have ideas of bringing this to life visually?
Yeah, I think there's an adaptation that's in the works. And I'm also working on some other film and television projects as well,
Fire.
which is really exciting. Kind of,
You
yeah, to like
cook.
bring
You
myself
cook.
to another medium, bro.
Hey. You cooking, man. Hey, that is fire. Has someone ever asked you when you was writing the book and you were talking about the woman and stuff, has someone ever hit you with like, do you understand your love language when connecting?
No, no.
So, because it was a lady I was dating maybe a couple of months ago, and she was talking about love language. I'm like, what is the love language? And she was like, no, you got to tap into yourself. And I think your book says that, man. Like, a lot of times when you talk about masculinity as a Black man, it's like, you can't be, sensual with yourself as far as, being affectionate. And you displayed that. And I just thought that was interesting if you ever heard of like love languages. But
I've heard of love languages, but no one's tied it to the work. But I think I don't know. It's interesting you saying that because so much of this was in a sense like me like really like confronting myself and asking myself to like go towards me in a way. So yeah, I think I don't know, it's important to it's and not always easy, but like, to kind of check in with yourself and be like,
and building confidence, man. Like, like when you're in those situations, it's like either you gotta be like Kobe or you gotta shoot your shot. That's pretty dope. Caleb, what advice would you give to inspiring young authors?
You have to first and foremost to trust yourself, to trust that the story that you want to tell is the story that you need to tell and that it should make its way out into the world. Read, watch, engage in everything that you
I
can.
love that word, engage.
Yeah, but just like trust yourself, trust your gut. So many of the things that I do are based on like a fleeting thought and me chasing after that. Yeah, really trust yourself.
That's dope. So I know you said you got some future plans in the works. What are some official things you can have people that like to look forward to as far as future works from you?
Ooh, official things. I'm working on another book. I'm working on another novel. Yeah, which I can't go too much.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, but yeah, that's something that's coming. And like I said, the stuff for the screen too, which is really exciting as well. A couple of different projects, which I think will, yeah, just it's nice that this work has opened up other avenues for me, and I can continue to try and express myself in different ways.
Look, as the world continues to open up, you have to come to South Florida. Look, man, I'm telling you, you got to come. You got to come to South Florida, but also visit the African American Research Library Community Center. Man, it's an amazing experience. Second to none, man. We have a lot of great archival things that I think that would suit your liking, man. And I just want to thank you for having this conversation with me. Where can they find you at, man?
I'm online. I'm on Instagram. I'm on Twitter. You can find me on Instagram at Caleb_A Nelson. I'm on Twitter at Caleb A Nelson. Yeah, that's where you find me at for now.
For now, because hey, look, I know you're about to blow up, man. It's definitely been an inspiration, man. I love it, man. I'm actually gonna read your book again. I told my homie about it because we was laughing. I was like, man, this dude, that man, oh boy, he got it, man. You got it, man. It's been an honor, Caleb, man. Thank you so much, man, for joining us today, and we'll connect soon, brother.
Thank you, bro. Thank you.
All right. Thank y'all for coming to our 10th annual South Florida Book Festival. We just had a dope conversation with a great writer, Caleb Azumah Nelson. Please purchase his book, Open Water. And if you don't purchase it, which you should, come to your local library and get your library card, and you can actually, especially in Broward County, we actually have it in Broward County libraries, either for a physical copy or as an ebook. So you have no excuse to access this brother's book and purchase the book, man. Support is everything, man. I love what you're doing. Good night, everybody. God bless you.